Okay, we're ready. Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the Sunday morning service at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Laguna Beach. My name is Don West Jr., and I'll be serving as your worship associate and worship leader this morning. This morning, we're going to be in our 6th of 8-part series on Being the Change Challenge. Being the Change Challenge is going through our UU principles. There are 7 UU principles with a proposed 8th principle that is being adopted around the country. And today we are on that 6th principle, which we affirm and promote: world community with liberty, justice, and peace for all. Each Sunday, anywhere there is a service held in Unitarian Universalist congregation, a chalice is lit. The flaming chalice is the symbol of our faith. If you've joined us today on Zoom, I invite you to light a chalice within your home. And I'm going to light our chalice momentarily. So if you joined us on Zoom, I invite you to light your chalice now. We are the change we desire to see in this world. In a single room, in this sanctuary, we all light this flame as a symbol of community. May this dancing flame inspire us to forge a new future together. At the UUFLB, we are a welcoming congregation with a commitment to work together to actively dismantle systemic racism and oppression in all of its forms. The land on which we join together in worship is the ancestral territory of the Ahashiman and Tongva tribes. We offer our gratitude to the First Nations for their care of the earth and for their teachings. And with humility, we commit to learning and working on behalf of justice. Whoever you are, whoever you love, no matter your age or gender, your ancestral or ethnic background, and whatever sincere questions you bring with you today, whatever has brought you here with us this morning, we welcome you to our community of mutual caring and serious intent to grow as spiritual and ethical beings, a community which supports each of us as we work to make a difference in this world. Unitarian Universalists subscribe to no single religious creed, but we've gathered a set of principles that guide us as we build a religious community together. The 7 principles that Unitarian Universalist congregations affirm and promote on the back of your order of service. If you haven't picked one up, there in the back on the table there. And again, we're focusing today on the 6th principle. And the 6th principle is a principle that some people say you can't do by yourself, and we're going to explore that a little more. But just as a reminder, our 6th principle is: we affirm and promote world community with liberty, justice, and peace for all. Throughout this service this morning, if you're here with us in the building, I invite you to come forward and light a candle right here in the front of the sanctuary, in recognition of whatever you're carrying in your heart, whether it be a joy or a sorrow. It's such a joy to have guests with us on Sunday morning, and today is a joy because I see a couple of guests that are returning. So I want to say a special welcome to our guests. If you're comfortable and you've only been with us 1 or 2 times, would you like to say hello and tell us your name and maybe where you're from, where you live? Anyone? Anyone? I see you're already standing, Mr. Frank. Oh, wow. Well, welcome, Frank. Anyone else want to say good morning, hello? Well, welcome, Frank. Frank reminds us of our opening song, Give Love, Give Love. It's all about love and loving one another. And we're going to get into that a little bit more. But now let's just take a couple of moments to turn to one another for a quick greeting. So I invite you, if you're able, to move around. Let's say hello. We used to do this once upon a time, so people might not remember. But we're going to say hello for a couple of minutes and say good morning. So. All right. Thank you all. Thank you all for choosing to be here with us today. We hope that you had a chance to fellowship. You know, one of the things that we do here, Mr. Frank, is that we hold one another. So welcome. If you allow us, we'll hold you too, sir. No, not necessary. So welcome to all. Welcome to all. And I invite you to stay afterwards for coffee. It's a beautiful day. You might want to take it out on the patio. Now up on your screen, momentarily, we're going to have our centering thought. I invite you to read this centering thought with me out loud if you are able. Our centering thought comes from John Lewis. And give us just a second and we'll have it up for you. I don't know if everybody can read this, but if you can, read it out loud with me. By the
force
and our
determination and our numbers, we shall splinter the segregated South
out to pieces and put them together
in the image of God and democracy.
We must
say, wake up, America, wake up, for we cannot stop, and we will not and cannot be patient.
So in case anybody's wondering what that is and where that came from, that's from 1963 at the March on Washington. That's the final few words from Representative John Lewis, who was not then quite yet Representative John Lewis. And if you're not quite familiar, tomorrow is going to be the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington. And so that's why I chose to bring John Lewis's words and thoughts in, because it's a reminder that the work is not done. The work is not done, and we're going to get back to that in a little bit as well. So we have some announcements. One, as you all know, every week on Monday, we have an opportunity for you to fellowship, led by Paul Bogdan with his, I think, co-host, Candy Strzok. And it's a wonderful opportunity for us to fellowship and commune. And if you're not already joining us on Mondays at noon, I invite you to do that. We also have an opportunity to serve, which I just remind you, the 1st of September is coming around, which means the first Thursday in September is coming around. And on the first Thursday of every month, we have an opportunity to work together as a community and provide the meal at the alternative sleeping location. So it's coming up. If you are interested, Candy has been our long-standing participant. Reach out to Candy and myself and we'll give you more information on how to get involved with that this Thursday. Are there any other announcements from the people? I got two, so I'm gonna go with Paul first. Just to repeat that, in case you wanted to know what he said on the Zoom, the neighbors across the street have made it known that they hate the paint colors we have chosen. And in other news, just a repeat for the people on Zoom very quickly. Our painter is scheduled to begin painting on Tuesday. So on Tuesday, and we've had lots of different feedback. So any changes that are gonna happen by Monday night. So if you do have any expressions or feelings that you wanna give that haven't already been given, please reach out to one of the members of the board, Oakley, myself, Dara, Cindy, or Tom, and let us know, because we're gonna have to deal with this in kind of a quick fashion.
Hey, did you say
In the bottom.
Dawn?
Going twice. Well, thank you. So now it is time to hear from the lovely Carol Cole. We are going to do our opening hymn this morning. Our opening hymn is going to be number 123, Spirit of Life. So if you are able and feel up to it, please stand and join Carol in singing number 123, Spirit of Life. The words will be on the screen.
Please join me. I'm waiting for the lyrics on the screen. There it is. Are you ready? Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Rise in the sea, giving life shape of justice. Holy cross, we set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Fuente d'amor, ven hacia mí. Corazón, contemplate once more. So to the heart, majesty,
come together as a community. I invite you to read these words together when and if it feels right for you. If you have joined us by Zoom, you may want to unmute your microphone so that your voice can be joined together with the voices here in the fellowship building. The words of the unison affirmation will be on your screens. Please join me in reading them. Love, spirit,
Is the spirit of this fellowship,
service,
and service is its law. This is our great covenant,
to dwell,
to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
We have now, you may be seated. We have now come to a time in our service to briefly share the important events that have touched our lives over the past week and since we last gathered together. The joys which we share are amplified so that they extend beyond ourselves and out into the community. And in sharing our sorrows, we can provide for each other the support and care that are vital for all of us. During this time of sharing our joys and sorrows, we have paused the recording of the service. We will first invite the attendees who. It is as much a blessing to be able to give as it is to receive. In this self-governing and self-sustaining community, we recognize that it is a responsibility to do both well. Our fellowship depends on the love and generous contributions from our members. We are empowered by the innumerable gifts of those who join in covenant with us. Time, passion, humor, and financial contribution, and all of our gifts, generously given, are needed for our fellowship and for its continued work in the world. This is our time of offering. We'll be passing a basket around the fellowship, and the information that's on your screen provides 2 additional ways in which you can give. Electronically, those 2 ways on the left. There's also the address where you can send in a check the old-fashioned way through snail mail. So please join us as we pass the basket. We're going to have some soft music played by Carol, and it is now our time of offering and thanksgiving. Please join us in singing to each other the words of sincere gratitude. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. And I invite you to stand and make it a circle if we're able.
From you I receive, to you together we share. Not from this we live. To you I receive, to you I give. Together we share. Not from this we live.
into a space of meditation. And as we enter into this time of meditation or prayer, I invite you to listen to the song. We're going to do it a little bit differently than I typically do meditation or prayer. So I invite you to find a comfortable position and then breathe deeply and listen to the words of the song and let it be a guided meditation as we enter into our time and the message together today. I know the inside joke, but I was about to walk away from the microphone. So imagine, that's what I'm going to ask you to do with me throughout the rest of our time together today. Imagine and write it out of the gate, because this is a challenge. The first challenge number one for today, is I need you to imagine your own vision of world community. What does that mean for you? I want you to start to envision world community, because our sixth principle says we affirm and promote world community with liberty, justice, and peace for all. And so every week when I'm getting ready to do this Be the Change challenge, I know we're talking about Unitarian principles. I know Unitarians and Universalists have been around since the early 1800s or late 1800s, and I know that they merged in the 1960s. So the language it's from a modern language from the 1960s moving forward, and the language was then amended in the 1980s, and this is just some background to make sure that we're all on the same page. The language was amended in the 1980s to make it more gender neutral, more gender affirming, and it moved the theology to our resources, our sources, and our principles. And so what it was some really, really good words and good words for ethical living. And when we go through our principles, they're not exactly practical directions on what you're supposed to do. They're not like the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill is a very practical and direct instruction. But what you have here is to affirm and promote world community with liberty, justice, and peace for all. So I have to do some narrative analysis, and I begin at the end of that statement, and it says for all. And in the 90s, when I was in law school, I had a professor, his name was Tony Alfieri, and he taught us civil procedure, and he used his voice, which was a very high-pitched voice in and of itself, and because he was a man of small nature with a high-pitched voice, he kind of used it as a weapon. And in that, and making sure we paid attention to language, I think I told you guys this once or twice before, whenever he came across two particular words, all and shall, he would screech them. He would say, oh. And that's an important thing, and I can't step away from the microphone. This is an important thing, so I want you guys to close your eyes for a second. And I want you to think of whoever is the worst person you can imagine. The person that you just gets under your skin and you can't stand them. And you have that person open your eyes and come back to them. It's somebody that just is under your skin. And so now, here's the thing. All. So when we're talking all, it includes whoever that person is that you had when you close your eyes. That means that you have to find a way to live in community with liberty, peace, and justice with that person. And so does that sound like something that is easy to do when you think about that person? You just close your eyes and envision it.
As long as he goes to jail.
As long as the justice is administered. And so I was thinking about that, and I was like, that is a serious challenge and a serious goal. I don't know what you thought of the first challenge when I asked you to close your eyes and to envision your own world community. But part of what I start to think about is the things that I already know. And let me back up just a little bit. So when I was a young man, there was a television. channels. We're going to television channels, so this is not my fault, because I have no control of the channels we watch, but they were on the channels. And lots of times at night, we would watch beauty pageants. I don't know who was the fan of the beauty pageants, but I didn't have any control of the remote that was TV at the time, except for between 3 and 5 and 7 for 2 hours. But anyway, I saw a lot of beauty pageants. And in all these beauty pageants, there was a very common answer when they said, if you could do it, which is one of your dreams? It's a very common answer. They make fun of it in movies, it's all over the place. And they said, I wish for world peace. And I actually remember the time when Vanessa Williams won Miss America. It was a big deal for me. She was the first Black woman to win Miss America. And it made an impression on me as a little Black kid. And some other ladies in that contest, not Vanessa Williams, said they wanted world peace when they asked them what they wanted in their question. I started to think about on the drive home from Henderson, I was like, why do they always say world peace? And it came to me that it's actually the ultimate goal or the ultimate wish. It's the big goal or the big wish. And what is a goal? It's something that's clearly defined and tangible for most of us. We seem to be very goal-oriented and able to get things done around here as it relates to the things that we did for the Spirit Grant, including we have a goal of getting a conversation together before Tuesday morning to figure out what we're going to do with the colors to finish off the Spirit Grant. But we have brand new windows because we set a goal, we met the goal, we executed on the goal. But this is a goal of world community with liberty and justice for all. We cannot have a meeting, we can't call the board and make that happen. That's just not possible. And I listened to a couple other UU ministers talk about this subject, and they both seemed to say that it was something that we couldn't do alone. And I want to disagree. I think the only way we can build world community with liberty, justice, and peace for all is alone. And what I mean is the only thing that we actually can control is ourselves. And so the only work that we can really do to truly impact the world is change ourselves. And so challenge number 2, sometime this week, I need you to find some time and some space to go through this exercise. I'm going to tell you how I did it and what I came up with. Before we get to challenge number 2, we're going to back up a little bit more to these words: liberty, justice, and peace. World community with liberty, justice, and peace. And we just have to remember that those come in the construct of an American mindset, an American framework. We're talking about an American faith tradition written by Americans and quite literally in some ways straight plagiarized out of our Pledge of Allegiance. So the concept is American. The nationalism to the extent that it exists in America and how that drips in, like patriarchy drips in and other things. Just think about that as we go into this challenge number 2 that I came up with. And it's about internal work. What do I have to change in myself to make the world a better place? And just by happenstance, I like to go over there. One of the sermons I listened to was during COVID, and they were talking about the COVID period was during the lockdown. And it made me think about when they told me that potentially COVID might have come from Wuhan, China. And I don't know who to blame this on, but I'm going to blame it a little bit on National Geographic. And National Geographic has shown me images as a young American, as a middle-aged American, as a little bit older middle-aged American, and I have some very negative concepts about particular places: South America, Asia, Africa, quite literally only based on a few images that I've seen in National Geographic. So when they told me that COVID came from Wuhan, China, I pictured a place that looked like one of these National Geographic pictures from 1979 that I had seen. And I imagined some Chinese people outside with some wicker top thatched things. And somehow there's a lab there. I don't know where that came from, but that's what I allowed to be programmed into my mind. And then as I'm driving this morning, I remember seeing pictures of Wuhan, China at some point in this process. And it's more developed and has a bigger skyline than Chicago and then Miami. And so what I'm challenging you to do is to find something within yourself that you know is not programmed right. We have to think acutely and accurately about the world to bring about a world community. So what I'm doing in this part 2 of the challenge is I'm focusing on these images and these thoughts that everything in America is so perfect and everything else outside in the world is so wrong. I've traveled not everywhere, but a lot of places, and none of them look like my National Geographic images that I'm holding on to. So that's part 2 of the challenge. And then, so now we have a goal, right? And a goal can be very tangible, but can also be something that we're not necessarily going to achieve in our lifetime, or maybe even at all. A goal can be something that we just shoot for, something that gives us direction. And there's something very particular that we know of that is exactly like that, and that's the North Star, right? So when we use the North Star to navigate, most of us use Waze or Google Maps, so we don't have to rely on the North Star any longer. But when we use the North Star to navigate, I like the way that Thich Nhat Hanh put it. He says, if I lose my direction, I have to go and look for the North Star, and I go in the direction of the North Star, but that doesn't mean that I expect to actually arrive at the North Star. I just use it to help me know in what direction I want to go, right? So now we know that we're working with the goal of world community. And once we get a clearer vision of what that world community is, then that can start to become a North Star for us, right? And then we look at the words. We affirm and promote world community with liberty, justice, and peace for all. And in there, there's some underlying promise. There's some underlying and included messages in that. And here's what I see. I see that progress is possible, right? Because we can make a change. I see that people can change. Because if we're going to have a world community, it's going to require people to change. Some of them will have to change while they're in jail, but people will have to change if we're going to truly have world community. And then there's also this underlying included notion that it's actually our work to improve everything around us, right? And so if we can believe in good and change, that's one of the things that makes what we do and how we do it differently, because other people believe in destiny, they believe in doctrine, they believe in a damnation in such a way that it doesn't allow them to believe in the good. And this is literally world community with liberty, justice, and peace for all invites us to believe in the good. And coming back to that second challenge about the inner work, the good has to be in you. If you're not full of good and fully overflowing with good, there's no way the world can be good and overflowing with good, because you're mucking it up, that one individual you. So encouraging challenge number 3 is to start making space to fill yourself up. Because one of the things they say is you cannot pour from an empty vessel. So you start to have intentional things to fill yourself up. It can be a chamomile tea, it can be a meditation, a walk on the beach, since we live in such idyllic places. But there has to be something in your regular routine to fill yourself up as you move forward, or else there's nothing to pour out of from your cup. And so there's a very interesting quote going back to that tomorrow is the anniversary of the March on Washington. And I always thought this quote came from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But in my research for today and all of the homework that I did getting ready for you guys, I learned that in 1853, a Unitarian minister named Theodore Parker said these words: I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye only sees a little ways. I can not calculate the I cannot calculate the arc and complete the figures by the experience of sight. I can derive it only by conscience. And from what I can see, I am sure it bends towards justice. And the quote as it's attributed to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King is, the arc of justice is long. No, the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And so it's our job, it's our duty, it's our responsibility to put pressure on that arc. And there's a couple ways that we can put pressure, that internal pressure that we're putting by changing ourselves. And then in the sermons I listened to, there was a lot of conversation about, well, I'm afraid to help people because if I help someone at the gas station, it may be a scam. Or if I help a person in this situation, it may be a scam. Or they just may be a professional panhandler. And the suggestion came that I want to share with you, and it was an amazing one. Why don't you start helping people just when you see they need help, not when they're asking for it? When you see that someone might need a hug, because you know that they need a hug, not because they asked for a hug. Or when you see that someone might need a little help with a couple extra odd jobs so that they can get along their way. They don't have to. One of the no-nos, there's very specific instructions that say, don't touch the microphone. And anyway, you don't have to wait for someone to ask. And if you start to make a practice of being mindful of your surroundings and mindful of what happens when we go out that door and when we go out our front door, you'll see little opportunities. And it might not be the same as an extreme case of help. It may be something that's just a little paying it forward, a little encouragement. But look for opportunities to help. And then my final challenge for you this morning is that tomorrow is the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington. And JFK Jr. did not live to see a man walk on the moon. And Martin Luther King Jr. did not live to see so much of the progress, and so much of the progress that was intended through all of the activities in the 1960s in the civil rights movements are still works in progress. So my final challenge is tomorrow, sometime, whether it's watching the program on TV as it's broadcast and they do the programming from Washington, D.C., or somehow engaging with yourself and the ideas of equality for all, justice for all, peace for all. I challenge you tomorrow for the 60th anniversary on Washington to spend some time engaging the principles and the purposes of why that march actually occurred and why we are still marching for the things that we need to have. So we have work to do. It's our work. We have 4 challenges. 1, you have to please with me this week. We're going to keep the principle in our pocket. The principle we're going to keep in our pocket is the 6th principle. We affirm and promote world community with liberty, justice, and peace for all. We're going to come up with a solid vision of what world community means to us personally. We're going to do some deep inner work, and we're going to find something to single out and change about ourselves that we know is not helping and leading to world community. And we're going to focus on the principles in the principle and around the March on Washington tomorrow as we keep this 6th principle in our pocket moving forward. And with that, I'm going to invite Carol to come back up to the piano and lead us in our closing hymn today. And our closing hymn, I believe, is number 143? 145. And my pages got out of order. There it is, 145, As Tranquil Streams. 145, As Tranquil Streams. Please stand if you're able and join Carol in singing hymn number 145.
As tranquil streams that meet and merge and flow as one to seek the sea, our kindred hearts and minds unite to build it shall be free. Free from the bonds that bind the mind to narrow thought and lifeless creed. Free from a social code that fails to serve the cause of human need. A freedom that reveres the past but trusts the dawning future more, and bids the soul in search of truth adventure boldly you and explore. A party church, the future waits your liberating ministry. Go forward in the power of love, proclaim the truth that makes us free.
Our chalice extinguishing words come from Cynthia Landrum. We leave this gathered community, but we don't leave our connection, our concerns, our care for each other, our service to each other, to the world, and to our faith communities. Until we are together again, friends, be strong, be well, be true, be loving, keep the principle in your pocket. Ashe, namaste, and blessings be. And now it is time for our closing song. So please, let's make a circle together and we shall sing, "Let There Be Peace on Earth." The words will be on the screen.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With the hands of others, we are family. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. With me, let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow. To take each moment, live each moment in peace, eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and it be. Have a great day.